The story begins with an armed robbery. With the hope of solving their family's financial problems, Officer Walker and 4 other colleagues carried out a raid on a weapons trafficking hideout they had been monitoring for a long time. However, just as they were about to leave, a gang member on lookout duty heard some noise and walked in with a flashlight to check the situation. Walker quickly took him down while he was off guard, but when they saw his face clearly, everyone was shocked because it turned out he was an undercover police officer embedded in the criminal organization. He was even carrying wiretapping equipment. Walker believed they needed to take him to the hospital immediately, but Vince felt that doing so came with serious risks. If he survived, a lot of things would be exposed. A gunshot ended Walker's moment of compassion and pushed him into a deep sense of guilt. In the time that followed, Walker returned to his father's old house, hoping time would ease that painful memory. However, his 4 remaining colleagues ran into trouble during this period. They were assigned to intercept a truck carrying firearms. However, this time, the robbers seemed to know the police's methods very well. Faced with a fierce chase, the robbers just kept flooring the gas pedal. The powerful engine helped their vehicle move easily through the muddy road. The suspect's refusal to cooperate made the officers consider using force. Realizing the unfavorable situation, the robbers decisively crashed through a barrier and sped onto the highway. But the police car behind kept tailing them closely. To shake them off, the robbers in the car spotted a washing machine by the roadside and came up with an idea. The 2 of them together tossed the washing machine toward the police car. This action managed to block the police vehicle, but it also caused even more trouble for them. When the others caught up, Kode was severely injured and in critical condition. A colleague immediately returned to the car to call for backup. Meanwhile, the robbers escaped with their girlfriend Mia. The whole group headed to the territory of the Chinese Triad gang. They brought along 2 black bags. Led by a gang member, the group entered an underground bar. A reckless-looking young man stood in front of them. His name was Tu Puong, the current leader of the Triad. The underlings opened the bags, which were filled with powdered weapons. At the same time, an accomplice outside noticed a suspicious vehicle driving out from the alley. Everyone inside the car was wearing masks. Clearly, they had bad intention, so he immediately called Mia, telling her to leave right away. Cut to Walker and his partner, who had just finished their patrol, and were getting ready to head back when they heard a case reported over the radio. Walker quickly turned the car around. Ellie turned on the emergency lights. Both of them quickly headed to the crime scene. When they arrived, the scene was completely cordoned off. Inside the bar, it was a bloody mess. Everyone present had passed away, including the Triad's leader, Tu Puong. Based on his years of police experience, Walker could easily picture what had happened. When the attackers appeared, the Triad members were completely unprepared. The attackers' weapons were highly advanced and powerful. They had no chance to fight back. All were shot and fell to the ground. The scene instantly turned into a living nightmare. Walker was just about to review the people he had previously encountered who might be the culprits when a colleague interrupted him. From this colleague, Walker learned that Kode was injured. The 2 had a very close relationship within the team. Kode being injured came as a huge shock to Walker. At that moment, Ellie approached with a phone. They had captured the suspect's image from surveillance footage. When Walker saw the suspect's face clearly, his expression changed. But to avoid drawing attention from his part, first, Walker shifted his gaze to the weapon the young man was holding. He stated that the young man was not the killer because there were no revolver shells at the scene, and a revolver couldn't have caused such large wounds in such a short time. These words successfully distracted Ellie. So, while she was confused, Walker quietly walked away. He saw a trail of blood leading from the door to the street. Walker was certain that someone had escaped, but he said nothing and quickly left the scene. After that, he went to see mayoral candidate Bilmont. Indeed, the young black man in the surveillance footage was Charlie, Bilmont's son. However, when it came to his son being a killer, Bilmont said that was impossible. But Walker knew this didn't need to be proven. At this point, Charlie was already involved. If the public found out about this, Bilmont's candidacy for mayor would surely be destroyed. No one would believe a man whose son was an arms dealer could effectively run this city. After hearing those words, Bilmont became furious. He ordered Walker to find Charlie no matter what, by any means, even threatening Walker with just one phone call. You and your friends will have bad luck for the rest of your lives. Walker had a weakness that Bilmont held over him, so he had no choice but to agree, but on the condition that after this, there would be no further contact between them. Bilmont agreed. The loss of her only son had caused Clarice, who was in Hong Kong, to be furious. She immediately showed up in New York, seeing her son's cold body. Clarice couldn't accept it at first. The seed of hatred fully sprouted at that very moment. She slowly walked up to Cui Shuk, who had been in charge of her son's security. She drew the gun from his belt and took down 3 of his men standing nearby. This was a warning and a move to kill one to scare 100. Who killed my son? His father has powerful connections. He won't be easy to find. If you don't bring back the person who took my son's life, I'll bury you with him. Based on the clues he had, Walker went to Chinatown. At that moment, one of Tu Puong's men who had escaped was there getting treatment for his wounds. Walker easily took down the thugs outside and rushed in. Seeing that Walker had come with bad intentions, the gang member smashed the window and tried to escape, but Walker was faster. He pulled him back in through the window. This guy was the key to finding Charlie, so he couldn't let him pass away yet. Walker showed him a photo and asked if he had seen this person, but the gang member stayed silent and refused to talk. Left with no choice, Walker had to use more forceful methods. After mental and emotional pressure, the man finally confessed the truth. He had indeed seen Charlie and Cui Shuk together, but when Walker asked if Charlie was the one who shot Tu Fong, the man said he wasn't. The ones who took Tu Fong's life were 3 men in black wearing hockey masks. It seemed like a lead, but on second thought, it was useless, because no one knew what those 3 looked like. Walker realized there was no point in pressing further, so after warning the doctor harshly, he stood up and left. But just after he left, the doctor picked up a scalpel from the floor and slashed the gang member's artery. After leaving Chinatown, Walker went to the hospital and met the remaining members of the Black Police 5. Their expressions showed that things had gotten complicated, and then Vince confirmed it. They had confirmed that Charlie was the driver of the truck that night. At this point, Charlie was officially on the wanted list. I don't understand what you mean. We've all done bad things for Bilmont, but his son hurt one of our own. There has to be a price. So what are you planning to do? Take him out. Vince didn't answer, but the look on his face told Walker everything. Then, Walker saw Kote, unconscious in the hospital room, though he was out of critical condition. The doctor still couldn't guarantee that Kote would wake up, or whether he would remain in a vegetative state after waking. Seeing his close friend lying in that hospital bed, Walker felt heartbroken. Kayla told him that when Kote was first brought to the hospital. He kept mumbling, the 5 of them are in trouble. Kayla didn't understand what that meant, but Walker did. It had to do with the raid on the illegal weapons hideout. But to comfort Kayla, he took all the blame himself. All of this has nothing to do with Kote. It's all my responsibility. My mistake caused all of this. Meanwhile, Mia, to help Charlie escape from danger, went to her foster father, Raoul. She hoped he could help her and Charlie each get a passport. To keep them from being found, Raoul told them to hide at one of his secret locations first. He would come find them once the passports were ready. But he didn't expect that just as the passports were finished, and before he could deliver them, Walker showed up at his doorstep. Turns out that after leaving the hospital and returning to the precinct, his female partner informed him of the latest investigation results. Turns out the girl who appeared with Charlie at the crime scene was Raoul's adopted daughter, owner of a scrapyard. This information was extremely important, so Walker came here to try his luck, and happened to catch Raoul as he was about to stash the newly made passports. After confirming the information on the passports, Walker asked where Mia was hiding, but Raoul refused to say a word. Walker wasn't someone easy to deal with either. He pointed a gun directly at Raoul. She won't survive getting out of this city without my help. After hearing this, Raoul chose to compromise and handed over his unlocked phone to Walker. He also told him how to deliver the passports to Mia. Walker warned Raoul that he had never been there. If anyone asks, just say you don't know me. Then Walker drove away from the scrapyard. Just as his son was about to be found, Bilmont ran into trouble first, because the Triad had set their sights on him. Right at a traffic jam, their car was surrounded by members of the Triad. Then someone climbed onto the roof of their car with a gun. Inside, Bilmont was absolutely terrified. The assistant, terrified, opened the door to escape. But what awaited her was a cold bullet. Just like that, Bilmont became a prisoner of the Triad. Meanwhile, Clarice learned from Cui Shuk about the relationship between Mia and Charlie. Clearly, if they could find Mia, capturing Charlie wouldn't be hard. Just then, Curly, a member of Mia's group, showed up. He knew exactly what kind of organization the Triad was. Begging for his life, he agreed to lead them to Mia. At that moment, Mia had just received a message from Raoul, asking to meet her at a bar called Medusa. But the one waiting for her wasn't Raoul, it was Walker. Seeing him, Mia tried to flee, but Walker grabbed her tightly. He told Mia he wasn't there to arrest her. All he wanted was for her to tell him where Charlie was, and he would leave immediately. But Mia was stubborn and ignored Walker's threats. She still refused to give up Charlie's location. Just then, she noticed 3 figures walking into the bar. The people Mia saw were 3 members of the Black Police 5. Mia said they were all wearing hockey masks at the time, but she had knocked the mask off one of them. Vince stepped forward wanting to talk to Mia, but Walker firmly refused. However, just as the 2 sides were in a standoff, Walker noticed members of the Triad approaching through the crowd. At that moment, Vince also spotted the Triad henchman. He was about to flash his police badge when it was knocked out of his hand with a stick. Mia turned to run, and Walker jumped into action. In an instant, the whole bar erupted into utter chaos. In fact, the Triad's objective was very clear. At this point, they didn't know it was the black-clad officers in front of them who had taken Tu Fong's life. They had come here only because Curly led them to capture Mia. Capturing Mia would help them trace Charlie and avenge Tu Fong. They had assumed this would be an easy task, but they didn't expect to run into Walker and 3 other black officers, who had incredibly strong combat skills. Throughout the fight, Walker kept protecting Mia from harm, and Mia had also learned a few moves from her adoptive father, a veteran. In a critical moment, she unleashed twice her usual fighting power. The battle inside the bar was so bloody and intense, it felt like it was happening right before your eyes. As the fight went on, melee weapons were no longer enough to suppress these desperate fighters. After taking down a group of Triad members, Walker fired first, taking out the thug who was threatening Mia. Then he kept shooting at the rest. Mia used the chance to climb down to the first floor via a steel frame. Charlie and Raoul had just arrived, and Walker jumped down, grabbing Charlie. The whole point of finding Mia today was to get to him, but Charlie wouldn't cooperate. So Walker took Mia hostage to force Charlie to go with him. At that moment, the henchmen also chased them down. Seeing this, Walker didn't hesitate to fire and then pointed the gun at Mia again. But the Triad's assault didn't stop. Walker had no choice but to get both of them out of there. During the escape, Raoul was hit by several bullets. Seeing this, Charlie immediately pulled out his gun and fired back. Meanwhile, one of the Black Police Five, after taking out a few Triad members, was finally slashed in the neck artery by an enemy. Walker had just brought both of them into the hallway when they ran into arriving police. Walker was about to show his badge, but seeing the situation, he had no choice but to lead them back. To buy time for Mia to escape, Raoul used both hands to hold the door shut, just as Charlie pulled Mia away. Bullets riddled Raoul's body like a sieve. Walker led both of them outside. Just as he was about to drive them away, Clarice's personal bodyguard caught up and began shooting wildly at their car. Walker reversed while firing back to break up the enemy's formation. At that moment, Vince and another officer also rushed out. Walker's group successfully escaped. As for Curly, who had betrayed his team, he was casually eliminated by the female bodyguard as she left. At that moment, a large number of police swarmed in. Thanks to their status as officers, Vince and his team once again avoided punishment. Ellie also arrived at the scene with the team, but she quickly received a call from Walker. Walker told her that Vince and the other two were involved in everything that happened today. And before that, they chased the truck just to steal the weapons it was carrying. He also told Ellie that they were the ones who took Tu Fong's life. Ellie was shocked upon hearing this. After that, Walker told her to go to the hospital to protect Cote. He felt that after everything, someone would definitely come looking to harm Cote. Following his orders, Ellie immediately went to the hospital. But she was a step too late because Choi Shuk had already arrived, and through his conversation with Vince, Ellie realized everything had been planned by them, including the chase, the truck ambush, and the killing of Tu Fong. It turns out that after the previous Triad leader passed away, the power should have gone to Choi Shuk, who had been his right-hand man, but Clarice forced her son into that position. Choi Shuk was furious, feeling that all his years of effort were wasted. So he teamed up with Vince and the others to plan everything. The goal was for him to take the leader's seat and to pin all the blame on Charlie, but they didn't expect the plan to backfire badly. Well, because of Walker's interference. So they decided to eliminate everyone who knew the truth, including Cote, lying in his hospital bed. By now, Ellie had reached the hospital, but when she asked for Cote's room, she noticed Choi Shuk in the hallway through the surveillance camera. Hearing the alarm, the police officer stood up, but before he could react, Choi Shuk opened fire, bullets flying like rain. Cote in his hospital room couldn't escape his fate either, as he was fatally struck by Choi Shuk's burst of gunfire. But when he turned back, Choi Shuk ran into Kayla, who was returning with water. Just then, Ellie came charging down the hallway. Seeing this, Choi Shuk took Kayla hostage. Both sides immediately fell into a standoff. At that moment, Choi Shuk had completely lost control, unafraid of Ellie's raised gun. Right in front of her, he fired and ended Kayla's life. That act completely enraged Ellie. She immediately stood up and chased after him. The two engaged in a wild gunfight in the narrow stairwell. Bullets sparked off the stair railings all around. Ellie successfully subdued Choi Shuk. At that moment, she heard police sirens outside the door. To avoid any accidents, Ellie stuffed him into her car. Then she quickly drove away from the scene. After leaving the bar, Walker took both of them to the lakeside cabin his father left behind. Charlie had been shot in the shoulder, but luckily the wound wasn't too serious. Walker then made a phone call to Bilmont, but he didn't know the one answering would be Clarice. Walker said he had found Bilmont's son. He even sent her an address, telling him to come quickly and pick him up. Bilmont, standing next to her, heard everything but didn't dare say a word. A bloodier battle was about to begin. Unable to reach Walker, Ellie decided to visit his ex-wife and saw his 6-year-old daughter. After learning of Ellie's intent, his ex-wife gave her the address where Walker might be. Back in the car, Ellie handed the phone to Choi Shuk, telling him to call Vince and the others for a meeting, pretending he had found a buyer for the hot weapons they were holding. So Vince and Jack headed to the location immediately. From a distance, they saw Choi Shuk standing there. However, just as they moved in to make the deal, Ellie suddenly pointed a gun from inside the car. Seeing that, Jack had no choice but to obediently remove all his weapons. "You don't look like a killer, officer. In the dark, it's hard to tell you're a cop." On the other side, Walker had just finished putting on his armor and arming himself when he noticed a convoy of vehicles outside. Immediately after, a group of armed men in black advanced toward them. Walker dropped to the ground to dodge the bullets and threw a pistol to Mia. Mia picked up the gun and fought back without hesitation. Walker also opened fire right away. Although the enemy kept shooting at them, Walker seized an opportunity and took down an approaching gunman. Then came an even more intense wave of attacks from the enemy. Seeing that, Charlie grabbed a weapon from the ground. In that moment, only by working together did they have a glimmer of hope to survive. The group kept storming the cabin, attacker after attacker, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. While Walker was still locked in combat with the henchmen, Charlie and Mia were forcibly dragged out of the house. Walker snapped out of it and rushed to fight, but was viciously attacked by the female bodyguard. Walker was caught off guard and overwhelmed. A collapsing wooden shed came crashing down on it. But just as the bodyguard stepped forward to drag him out, a grenade launcher was aimed at her. She was taken down instantly, while Walker, exhausted, also lost consciousness. At that moment, Clarice brought Bilmont to the scene. Seeing his son covered in blood, Bilmont was devastated. Clarice took a pistol from one of her men and handed it to Bilmont. Her son had lost his life because of his son. So, now, only if he killed his own son with his own hands would things be fair. And Bilmont, after hearing that, actually raised the gun. Charlie begged for his life non-stop when he saw it. Just as tragedy was about to strike, Ellie suddenly appeared at the scene with Vince, Chui Shuck, and a group of people, exposing the bloody setup. They didn't take your son's life. You've got the wrong people. Clarice finally realized it was Chui Shuck who had her son killed. But Chui Shuck, hearing this, tried to pin all the blame on Vince and Jack. You traitor, you're the one who took my son's life. As Ellie fell, Jack picked up a pistol from the ground and aimed it at Charlie in the distance. Seeing his son in danger, Bilmont rushed forward without hesitation. The bullets meant for Charlie all landed in Bilmont's body instead. Bilmont collapsed. Walker regained consciousness and saw everything that had happened. He grabbed the rifle in front of him and unloaded a hail of bullets at Jack, but missed. Ellie raised her shotgun and fired a blast at Jack. Vince took the chance to snatch a gun and emptied the magazine into him. The scene once again erupted into total chaos. This time it was a battle between Chui Shuck's loyalists and Clarice's men. The fight between the two sides was brutal, and even Walker was nearly caught in the crossfire. Clarice couldn't react in time and was fatally shot by Chui Shuck's bullet. Her passing made the battlefield even more savage. Chui Shuck was severely wounded by Vince, and Vince, right in front of him, took the bag of hot weapons worth millions. Watching Vince flee, Walker immediately got up and chased after him. Meanwhile, Ellie and Jack's fight reached its climax. Just as she was about to take down Jack, Ellie discovered her gun was out of bullets. Seeing this, Jack tried to strike back, but Charlie grabbed his gun and shot him dead. Not only did he avenge his father, but he also eliminated a major threat to the NYPD. As for Vince, he ran off with the weapons to the train tracks, preparing to escape by train. But he didn't expect Walker to be right behind him. As soon as Vince climbed onto the train, Walker shot him down. Seeing Walker approaching, Vince raised his gun to fight back, but was ultimately taken down on the spot. At this point, of the Black Police 5, only Walker remained. Ellie, after telling Charlie and Mia to leave and never come back, turned and walked over to the dying Walker. Walker confessed to her all the bad things he had done, and said this time he didn't plan to run anymore. You're a good cop. I should have treated you better. It was the first time Ellie had heard Walker admit what she had always said. Lone Fate isn't just an ordinary action movie, but through a gripping storyline and intense fight scenes, it deeply portrayed the dark side of society and the struggles and choices people face. When confronted with temptation and adversity, every character had their own motive and goal, intertwining in a world of crime, creating a tense battle of wits and survival. The value of a film lies in its reputation, but the value of a review lies in emotion. That's the end of today's story. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the movie? Leave your comments below.